The silver chains bit into my wrists as they dragged me across the marble floor of the lunar hall, leaving streaks of blood that gleamed like rubies under the moon-touched dome. My knees scraped raw against the stone, but I didn't cry out. I'd learned years ago that screaming only made them drag harder. Izara Voss. The beta's voice boomed across the packed hall. Forsaken Omega, bearer of the rejection scar, you stand accused of trespassing in the Alpha King's private sanctuary. I kept my head down, dark hair curtaining my face. Not out of respect. Respect was for those who belonged. I stayed low because invisibility had kept me alive for 23 years in a pack that viewed rejected Omegas as walking reminders of shame. The scar on my neck throbbed, that cursed mark where Alpha Matthias had bitten me at 16, then rejected me before the bond could form. The wound had never properly healed, remaining an angry purple testament to my worthlessness. Every wolf here could smell it, the scent of incompleteness, of an Omega who couldn't even hold a mate's attention long enough to be properly claimed. She was stealing moonwater, someone shouted from the crowd. I saw her filling vials from the sacred pool. I hadn't been stealing. The pool had been calling to me in dreams for weeks, whispering my name in a voice that sounded like starlight. But explaining that would sound like madness. "Bring her forward," a new voice commanded, and the entire hall fell silent. Alpha King Caspian Throne had spoken. The guards hauled me upright, forcing me to my knees in the center of the hall's ritual circle. I'd only glimpsed the Alpha King from afar during pack gatherings, a figure of unthinkable power who ruled not just our Shadowmere pack, but 7 others through primordial rite of conquest. Now he descended from his obsidian throne, and I understood why grown wolves trembled at his name. He moved like controlled devastation, midnight blue eyes holding the weight of countless battles. The crown of dominion circled his head, not mere metal but crystallized moonlight, the symbol of absolute authority over our kind. "Look at me, Omega." I couldn't disobey a direct command. My head rose against my will, and our eyes met. The world stopped. His pupils dilated just for a heartbeat. Something flickered across his face. Recognition? Shock? Fear? "Your name," he said, though he'd just heard it. "Your full name." "Izara Voss," I whispered. "Daughter of nobody. Rejected of Alpha Matthias. Omega of the outer districts." "And your mother's name?" My throat closed. "I don't know. She died birthing me." He circled me slowly, and I felt his power pressing against my skin like a physical thing. The other wolves backed away, giving him room. When he stopped directly behind me, my rejection scar began to burn. Not with pain, with light. Gasps echoed through the hall as silver radiance leaked from beneath my skin, tracing the ugly scar tissue, like liquid mercury. I tried to curl into myself, to hide this new humiliation, but the light only grew stronger. "Unthinkable," the beta breathed. "Stand," the Alpha King commanded. My body obeyed before my mind could protest. The chains holding me snapped like spider silk. I stood on shaking legs as the light spread from my scar down my arms, pooling in my palms like captured stars. "Shift," he ordered, his voice strangely rough. "Now." "I can't," I gasped. Rejected Omegas rarely shifted fully. Our wolves were too broken, too weak. "Please, I can't." "Shift!" The command hit me like lightning. My bones shattered and reformed. My vision exploded into supernatural clarity. But this wasn't the partial, pathetic shift of a rejected Omega. Light erupted from every pore as my body transformed, and when my wolf emerged, the entire hall staggered backward. I stood as tall as the Alpha King himself, my fur not the common brown or gray, but pure, blinding silver white that seemed to hold its own inner radiance. The marble floor cracked beneath my paws in spiraling patterns, but that wasn't what made everyone, including the Alpha King, drop to their knees. It was the crown of dominion, that primeval, unbreakable symbol of the Alpha King's authority that cracked straight down the middle with a sound like thunder, light pouring from the fissure like blood from a wound. Through my wolf's eyes, I saw Caspian staring up at me, his expression raw with something I couldn't name. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the now silent hall. "The Luna promise," he breathed. "The prophecy is real." Behind him, his beta was frantically scrolling through a massive tome, his face paling with each word he read. "My king," it says when the true Luna's heir shifts for the first time, the old crown must break to make way for the crown of unity," Caspian finished, never taking his eyes off me. "When the rejected becomes the revealed." I shifted back involuntarily, collapsing naked and shaking on the cold marble. Someone threw a cloak around me. The Alpha King himself, I realized with shock. His hands lingered on my shoulders, and where he touched, my skin sparked with unprecedented warmth. "Your mother," he said urgently, quietly enough that only I could hear. Was her name Lyanna? Lyanna Nightwhisper? The name hit me like a physical blow. I'd heard it once, in a dream, spoken by a woman made of moonlight. Maybe? I don't. Seize her. A harsh voice cut through the moment. Alpha Matthias pushed through the crowd, his face twisted with rage. "She's my rejected Omega. Mine to punish for this witchcraft." Caspian rose slowly, and the temperature in the hall plummeted. "Yours?" I marked her. "She bears my rejection. By pack law." "By pack law," Caspian interrupted, his voice deadly soft. "She just shattered the crown of dominion with her first true shift." He turned to face the assembled pack, and I saw something unthinkable in his eyes, fear mixed with hope. "Do you know what this means?" The beta's voice trembled as he read from the tome. "When the rejected Omega's light breaks the Alpha's crown, when recognition comes before revelation, the lost heir of Luna Nightwhisper has returned to claim not just a pack, but a destiny that will reshape the foundation of our world." Every wolf in the hall turned to stare at me, and in the shadows of the eastern entrance, I glimpsed a figure in a black hood whose scent made my newly awakened wolf recoil. Death and wrongness and primordial hatred all mixed into one. "The Society of Ash knows she exists now," the figure said, voice carrying despite the distance. "She should have stayed hidden. You've killed her, Caspian, just like you killed her mother." The Alpha King went rigid, and I realized my invisible life hadn't just ended, it had never existed at all. "Lock down the hall," Caspian commanded, his voice cutting through chaos. "No one leaves until we understand what's happening." Guards rushed to seal the exits, but the hooded figure had already melted into shadow. The wrongness of his scent lingered, making my newly awakened wolf pace frantically beneath my skin. "You knew my mother?" I asked, clutching the cloak tighter around me. "You knew what I was?" Caspian's jaw clenched. "I suspected. When you walked in. Your scent beneath the rejection." He stopped, running a hand through his dark hair. "Thaddeus, bring the Luna Chronicles. The real ones. Not the sanitized versions." "My king," Matthias interrupted, stepping forward with two of his enforcers. "This Omega is still mine by law. Whatever trick she's pulled..." "Trick?" I laughed. High and sharp. The sound made the windows vibrate. "You think I wanted this? You rejected me before the mate bond could form, left me scarred and broken. And now you want to claim ownership?" The light under my skin pulsed with my anger. Matthias stepped back. "Show them," Caspian said quietly. "Show them all what he did." I let the cloak fall from my shoulders, exposing the rejection scar. Under the hall's moonlit dome, it glowed like a brand of silver fire. But now, spreading from it like veins of starlight, patterns emerged across my skin, primordial marks that had been hidden until my shift. Luna marks, someone gasped. She bears Luna marks. Unprecedented, Matthias snarled. I would have sensed. You sensed nothing because you saw nothing, Caspian cut him off. You bid Omega in heat, then rejected her before tasting her blood. If you had completed even the first stage of bonding, you would have known you were rejecting the heir of the first Luna Queen. Beta Thaddeus returned with a tome bound in midnight blue leather. He opened it to a page that glowed with its own soft light, revealing an illustration that made my knees weak. It was me. Or rather, a woman who looked exactly like me, down to the placement of the Luna marks, now visible on my skin. Lyanna Night Whisper, Thaddeus read, last of the Luna Queen bloodline, guardian of the celestial bonds, murdered 23 years ago while fleeing the Society of Ash. Her daughter, hidden among common wolves, would bear 3 signs: rejection that cannot heal, light that answers to emotion, and the power to break any alpha's crown when her true nature awakens. My mother was a Luna Queen? My voice cracked. The last, Caspian confirmed. Luna Queens weren't just mates to alphas, they were the balance. Where alphas ruled by dominance, Luna Queens ruled by unity. They could bond entire packs together, heal fractured wolves, and, he paused, create or destroy mate bonds at will. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Excited whispers, fearful murmurs, and something else. Hope from the Omegas gathered at the hall's edges. She's lying, a new voice declared. A woman emerged from the crowd, Celine, Caspian's chosen mate, wearing the silver circlet of an alpha's intended. This is obviously some ploy, Caspian. You can't actually believe? She reached for my arm, intending to pull me away from him. The moment her skin touched mine, she screamed. Light exploded from the contact point, not harmful, but revelatory. Images flooded the hall, visible to everyone through some unthinkable magic. Memories that weren't mine but lived in my blood. My mother running through snow, clutching a baby to her chest, hooded figures pursuing with weapons that gleamed with poisoned moonlight. Her desperate sprint to a distant pack's borders. The moment she hid me in a basket at the orphanage door, pressing a kiss to my forehead as she whispered, "Stay hidden, my starlight. Stay invisible until the crown breaks." The vision shattered. Celine lay unconscious, her circlet cracked in half, just like Caspian's crown. The Society of Ash, I said, knowledge flooding through me from that brief contact with genetic memory. They've been hunting Luna Queens for generations. They believe... I stopped. The truth too horrible. They believe male wolves should rule without balance, Caspian finished. That the dual crown system made alphas weak. They've been systematically murdering every female with Luna blood for 300 years. And you helped them, I said, the accusation slipping out before I could stop it. Silence. Even breathing seemed to stop. Not helped, Caspian said, his voice hollow. I was raised by them, trained to be their perfect alpha king, ruler of all packs, answerable to no Luna Queen. He met my eyes. I was there the night your mother died, 17 years old on my first hunt. I was supposed to kill you both. My wolf snarled, ready to tear his throat out. Why didn't you? Because your mother didn't run. When we cornered her, she stood her ground. She looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "One day, my daughter will offer you a choice. Remember this moment when she does." His laugh was bitter. Then she used the last of her strength to curse me. Curse? He touched his chest, and through his shirt I could see a faint glow, a mark that mirrored my rejection scar. She bound my wolf to recognize her daughters, to protect what I was trained to destroy. Every full moon for 23 years I've searched for you without knowing why. And now you've found her. The hooded figure reappeared, but this time with dozens of others. The Society of Ash had infiltrated the hall during our distraction. The last Luna Queen heir, conveniently revealed. Thank you, Caspian. You've completed your mission after all. They raised weapons, silver tipped with something that made my wolf whimper. But before they could strike, something extraordinary happened. Every Omega in the hall stepped forward, forming a protective circle around me. Their eyes glowed with reflected light from my marks. You want her? An elderly Omega woman said. You go through us. Omegas defending Omegas? The hooded leader laughed. You have no power here. I felt it then, threads of light connecting me to every rejected, overlooked, and abused Omega in the hall. Their pain, their strength, their desperate hope, all flowing into me. They have me, I said, standing. The cloak fell away, and I didn't care. My marks blazed like a constellation. And I have something you fear more than Luna Queens. Beyond comprehension, he breathed, pulling back his hood to reveal a face scarred by silver burns. The unity bond was destroyed centuries ago. Was it? I asked, power building with each word. Or was it just waiting for an Omega to remember that submission isn't weakness? It's the choice to lift others up. The light erupted from every Omega simultaneously, and for the first time in 300 years, the unity bond blazed to life. The unity bond hit like a tsunami of sensation. Every Omega in the hall, 43 souls who'd been overlooked, rejected, or abused, suddenly shared one burning moment of connection through me. Their memories, their pain, their hidden strength, all channeled into a massive sphere of light that hung above us like a second moon. The Society of Ash scattered, their silver weapons useless against something that wasn't an attack, but an awakening. Several tried to flee only to find that the hall's sealed doors now glowed with the same light, barring their escape. Kill her! Their scarred leader screamed, before she... His words cut off as the sphere pulsed. Every Omega's eyes went pure white, including mine, and we spoke in perfect unison. We are not yours to command anymore. The power flooding through me should have torn me apart. Instead, it felt like coming home. My mother's genetic memories merged with the collective unconscious of all Luna Queens before her, and I finally understood what we truly were. Not just mates to alphas. We were the pack's heart, the bonds between wolves made manifest, and the society had spent 3 centuries ripping out those hearts, leaving packs fractured and alphas slowly going feral without their balance. Izara, Caspian's voice cut through the supernatural chorus. He was the only one still standing besides the Omegas, his cursed mark glowing in response to my power. You need to ground yourself, or you'll burn out. A unity bond without an anchor. I know, I said, with voices not entirely my own. That's why you're here. I reached for him, and he jerked back. I can't. I'm not your mate. I'm not even... You're the alpha who carries my mother's dying curse, I interrupted. A curse that was actually a gift. She didn't bind you to find me. She bound you to be my anchor when I needed one. The question is, will you accept it? I felt his turmoil across our temporary link. Celine unconscious at his feet, his crown shattered, everything he'd built threatened by my existence. But beneath that, relief. Bone-deep, soul-crushing relief that the search was over. The society will never stop hunting you, he warned. Then we stop them first. The sphere above us shifted, forming shapes, wolves running, moons rising, bonds spreading like visible threads between every wolf present. But I need an alpha's strength to channel this properly. I need... A blade sprouted from my chest. The scarred leader had moved faster than thought. A hidden blade of pure moonstone, the one thing that could pierce a Luna Queen's light. If I can't have you, he hissed in my ear, no one can. The unity bond shattered. Omegas collapsed. The sphere of light exploded outward, and I fell forward into Caspian's arms. Blood, too much blood, poured from the wound. "No!" Caspian roared, and his wolf emerged partially, fangs and claws erupting as he reached for the attacker. But the man dissolved into ash and shadow. A suicide runner who'd given his life to stop me. "The moonstone," Thaddeus gasped, dropping his tome. "It's still in her. If we don't remove it, it'll poison her wolf," Matthias finished. And for once, his voice held something other than contempt. "She'll die, just like all the others," I whispered, understanding flooding through me with the poison. Every Luna Queen for 3 centuries. This is how they did it. Caspian pressed his hands against the wound, but the blood wouldn't stop. Around us, the Omegas were stirring, reaching for me with desperate hands, trying to restore the unity bond. But the moonstone severed every connection. "There's a way," Celine said, conscious again and crawling toward us. Her circlet fell completely apart as she moved. "In the tome, Thaddeus, the page about succession rights." "That won't work," he protested. "It requires a mate bond." "Or a curse bond," she interrupted, looking at Caspian. "You carry her mother's mark. You could—" She swallowed hard. "You could take the moonstone into yourself." "It would kill him," I managed through bloody teeth. "Moonstone is poison to any wolf." "Not if he shifts it immediately to someone else," Celine continued, tears streaming down her face. "To someone who volunteers. Someone who was never meant to be Luna anyway." The hall went silent. Celine was offering to die for me, for an Omega who'd just destroyed her position, her future, everything she'd built. "Why?" I asked. She laughed bitterly. "Because I've been having dreams for months. A woman made of moonlight telling me I was holding a place for another. I thought I was going mad, but she looked just like you." She met my eyes. "Your mother has been preparing more than just you for this moment." "There has to be another way," Caspian said desperately. But I felt the moonstone spreading its poison through my veins, my light dimming with each heartbeat. The Omegas were losing their glow, the unity bond's potential dying with me. "Wait," a small voice said from the crowd. A young Omega, barely 16, pushed forward. "The prophecy. It says the rejected becomes the revealed, but it also says—" She pulled out a hidden piece of parchment, hands shaking. "I stole this from the archives. It says, when moonstone meets starlight in the rejected heir's blood, the choice isn't life or death, but what kind of life comes after death." "Resurrection," Thaddeus breathed. "But that would require—" "A pack bond," I finished, the pieces clicking together even as my vision darkened. "Not just Omegas. Everyone. Alphas, Betas, Omegas. The entire pack choosing to share the poison until it dilutes to nothing." "That's never been done," Caspian said. "The hierarchies were created by the society," I gasped out, "to keep us separated, to prevent this exact thing. But if every wolf here bonded temporarily through me, the moonstone would become starlight." The young Omega finished. "Shared equally, it wouldn't poison, it would enhance." "It could also kill everyone," Matthias pointed out, but he was already stepping forward. "Which is why I'll go first. I owe you that much, Azara." Before anyone could stop him, he pressed his hand to my wound. The moment his skin touched my blood, light erupted. Not the pure silver of before, but something new. Silver mixed with shadow. Moonlight and starlight combined. "It's working," he gasped, then screamed as the poison entered him. But instead of killing him, it transformed, his eyes flashing between gold and silver, power and submission balanced for the first time. One by one, others stepped forward. Celine, Thaddeus, guards who'd dragged me in, Omegas who'd hidden in shadows. Each touch spread the poison and transformed it, creating a web of light and shadow that encompassed the entire hall. Finally, only Caspian remained. "If I do this," he said quietly, "the curse completes. We'll be bound, not as mates, but as something else. Something new." I managed a smile through the pain. "My mother did say you'd have a choice." He pressed both hands to my chest, directly over the wound. The moment our blood truly mixed, the world exploded. The moonstone dissolved, becoming thousands of tiny stars that entered every bonded wolf. The crown of dominion reformed, not one crown but two, light and shadow intertwined. And deep in my bones, I felt something primordial wake. "The first unity pack," I whispered as my eyes cleared. "We've just created the first unity pack in 300 years. Answering howls rose from packs across the territory, carrying through the windows. They'd felt it, the awakening of something long thought dead. But in that moment of triumph, I heard him. The scarred leader's voice, though his body was ash. "You've only delayed the inevitable, little Luna. The Society of Ash has been preparing for this day. And your awakening? It just started a war." The lights in the hall flickered and went out. In the darkness, something howled. Neither wolf nor human, but something far older and angrier. The real enemy had just awakened. The darkness wasn't natural. It crawled through the hall like a living thing, swallowing our hard-won light. Across the new unity bond, I felt every pack member's fear spike simultaneously, a sensation like ice water flooding my veins from 43 directions at once. "Nobody move," Caspian commanded, his voice cutting through the panic. "Izara, can you—" I tried to summon the starlight, but something was blocking it, not suppressing, devouring. Each spark I created vanished into the hungry dark. Then came the voice, primordial and amused. "Did you think awakening the unity bond would save you, little Luna? You've merely seasoned yourself for consumption." Green flames erupted in a circle around the hall, casting everything in sickly light. In the center materialized a figure that made even Caspian step back, a woman in robes that seemed to be cut from the void itself, her face beautiful and terrible, neither young nor old. "Morgana Nightshade," Thaddeus whispered, his face draining of color. "The first betrayer." "The first liberated," she corrected, gliding forward. Her movement left trails of decay, marble aging centuries where her robes brushed. "The first Luna Queen to realize we were prisoners, not partners, bound to serve alphas who feared our true power." She stopped before me, and I saw her eyes, completely black except for pinpricks of green fire where pupils should be. "Hello, descendant of my bloodline." The words hit like a physical blow. "That's beyond reason. You died 500 years ago." "Death," she laughed, the sound like breaking bells, "is such a limiting concept. I simply evolved, merged with the shadow realm itself. And I've been waiting for someone like you, the last of our bloodline, to finally awaken." She circled us slowly, the Unity Pack members frozen by some invisible force. "You see, dear child, the Society of Ash were my pawns, eliminating Luna Queens one by one, forcing the survivor to grow stronger, more desperate, until finally—" She gestured to our bonded pack. "You would create the unity bond again, the very thing I need to complete my work." "What work?" I managed, though my throat felt lined with sand. "The great reversal. No more alphas, no more hierarchies. Just Luna Queens ruling through unity, or those strong enough to survive the change." Her smile was razor sharp. "The society thought they were eliminating threats. They were actually conducting my selection process. And you, my dear, are the winner." She raised her hand and the unity bond pulled. Not breaking but inverting, drawing power from the pack members instead of sharing it. Omegas cried out. Betas collapsed. Even Matthias fell to his knees. "Stop!" I screamed, trying to sever the connections, but I couldn't. The bond had become a trap. "I'll give you a choice," Morgana said conversationally as my pack writhed. "Join me willingly, and I'll spare them. Refuse, and I'll drain them dry through the very bond you created to save them." Across our curse connection, I felt Caspian fighting against the paralysis. His mother's mark burned on his chest, resonating with my distress. "There's another way," his voice whispered in my mind. "The crown." I looked at the reformed crown of dominion, now twin circlets of light and shadow lying where they'd fallen during the attack. They pulsed weakly, responding to our need but not enough to break Morgana's hold. "You want to know a secret?" Morgana continued, oblivious to our silent communication. "Your mother didn't die running from the society. She died running from me. I offered her the same choice. Join me or watch her pack suffer. She chose a third option. Death. Selfish little thing." Rage flooded through me, and with it, understanding. My mother hadn't been selfish. She'd been smart. Death had placed her beyond Morgana's reach while keeping the bloodline alive through me. "You're afraid," I said suddenly. "That's why you need me to choose. You can't just take the power. It has to be given." Morgana's perfect face cracked slightly. "Careful, child." "The unity bond works both ways," I continued, pieces clicking together. "You can drain through it, but if the Luna Queen refuses, if she chooses sacrifice over submission, you'll die, and the bond will shatter, killing everyone connected," Morgana snapped. "Is that really better?" "No," Caspian said, finally breaking through the paralysis. He grabbed the twin crowns. "But this is." He slammed them together. The explosion of light and shadow threw Morgana back. The crowns merged, creating something that had never existed. A single crown that constantly shifted between light and dark, neither dominant, both essential. "The balance crown," Thaddeus gasped. "Legend says it can only exist when Alpha and Luna are truly equal, neither ruling over the other but together," I finished, understanding flooding through me. Caspian held him out the crown. "Choose, Izara, but know that wearing this means we rule together. Not as mates, but as partners. The curse becomes a blessing. The unity pack becomes something beyond tradition." "That's not possible," Morgana shrieked. "Luna Queens rule alone or serve under Alphas. There is no middle path." "There is now," I said, taking the crown. The moment my fingers touched it, power flooded through me, not mine alone, but shared. Every member of the Unity Pack contributed, their strength becoming mine, mine becoming theirs. But Morgana laughed. "Fool child, you think a pretty crown changes anything? I am the Shadow Realm itself. I am—" She stopped mid-sentence. Through the windows, dawn was breaking. Except it wasn't normal dawn. The sun rose silver instead of gold, and with it came a presence that made Morgana actually step back. "No," she breathed. "You're dead. I killed you myself." A figure materialized from the silver sunlight, translucent but solid enough to cast a shadow. My mother, exactly as I'd seen her in genetic memories, but somehow more. Her eyes held stars. "Death, like you said, is such a limiting concept," Liana Nightwhisper said with a sad smile. "I've been waiting in the space between, gathering strength, preparing for this moment." "Ghost or no ghost, you have no power here," Morgana snarled. "Alone? No." My mother turned to me. "But my daughter just created the first unity pack in 300 years, bonded an alpha through curse-turned blessing, and forged the balance crown. The boundaries between realms are thin right now. Thin enough for this." She pressed her translucent hand to my chest, directly over my heart. The touch was ice and fire simultaneously, and through it flooded not just her memories but her essence. Every Luna Queen who died by Morgana's design had left an echo, a fragment of power waiting for this moment. No. Morgana launched herself at us, shadows becoming claws and teeth. But Caspian was there, the balance crown blazing on his head as he'd placed it during the confusion. His wolf emerged. Not the pure black I'd expected, but shot through with silver veins, transformed by our shared bond. He met Morgana's attack head-on. Through my mother's touch, I felt the truth. The unity bond wasn't just about connecting wolves, it was about connecting realms, life and death, light and shadow, past and future. The real choice, my mother whispered, already beginning to fade, isn't between serving or ruling, it's between unity and isolation. Morgana chose isolation 500 years ago. What do you choose? The answer came not from thought but from instinct. I reached out across the unity bond, not just to my pack, but beyond, to every Omega who'd ever been rejected, every Alpha who'd felt incomplete, every Beta who'd been overlooked, every Wolf who'd dreamed of belonging. I choose everyone, I said. The unity bond exploded outward, not draining but inviting. Throughout the territory, wolves felt it. A chance to join something greater. Not forced but offered. Not demanded but requested. Morgana screamed as hundreds, then thousands of connections formed. Not to me, but to the idea. Pack without hierarchy, strength without dominance, unity without submission. "This isn't over!" she shrieked, her form beginning to dissolve as the shared light overwhelmed her shadows. "The old powers are waking. The Void Hunters know where you are now, and your little unity pack won't survive what's—" Celine, of all people, cut her off. She'd picked up the moonstone blade that had nearly killed me, now transformed by the shared bond into something else. Starlight made solid. "You talk too much," she said, and drove it through Morgana's heart. The first betrayer exploded into shadow moths that dissolved in the silver dawn. In the silence that followed, I felt it. Thousands of wolves across 8 packs, all connected by choice. The unity bond had evolved beyond my wildest imagination. What should have taken years happened in days, the bond spreading exponentially through willing hearts. "What have we done?" I whispered. "Started a revolution," Caspian said, the balance crown flickering between us, responding to both our wills. "The question is, are we ready for what comes next?" I felt them stirring across our expanded awareness, other powers waking. Primeval things that had slept while the world was divided, now stirring to find unity spreading like wildfire. My mother's last whisper echoed as she faded completely. The Void Hunters were just the beginning. The real test is coming. In the distance, something howled. Not wolf, not human, but older than both. The revolution had begun, but so had the war. 3 days after Morgana's defeat, the Void Hunters arrived. I stood on the palace battlements, watching the horizon darken with their approach. They didn't walk. They unexisted space between where they were and where they wanted to be. Reality folding around them like origami made of screams. "How many?" Caspian asked, joining me. The balance crown rested on his head today. We'd been trading it back and forth, learning to share power in ways that made traditional alphas nervous and omegas hopeful. 43, I said, my enhanced vision picking out details that shouldn't exist. 1 for each member of our original Unity pack. That's not coincidence. Nothing is anymore. I felt our pack preparing across the expanded bond. In 3 days, we'd grown from 43 to over 3,000. The unity bond spread exponentially. What should have taken years happened in days as wolves abandoned old hierarchies, choosing connection over dominance. "They're going to make an example of us." The lead Void Hunter stopped just outside our borders. A creature wrapped in absence where its face should be was a hole in existence that hurt to perceive. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in our minds, bypassing Sound entirely. The Unity Pack ends today. Reality cannot sustain what you've created. We are the antibodies of existence itself. Dramatic much? Celine muttered from behind us. She'd become our strategic commander, her previous ambition transformed into protective fury. The moonstone blade never left her side now, still gleaming with starlight. Izara Voss, the Void Hunter continued. You have upset the fundamental balance. Morgana was meant to win or lose according to primeval patterns. You created a third option. This cannot be allowed. Allowed? I laughed, and silver light rippled across the palace walls. Who exactly decides what's allowed? We do. They attacked without further warning. The first wave hit our borders like a razor itself. Wherever void hunters touched, things simply stopped existing. Trees, stones, the very air, deleted from reality. Our outer defense, a line of the strongest alphas, lasted exactly 13 seconds. But they didn't die. I pulled them back across the unity bond, redistributing their essence among the pack before the void could claim them completely. They reformed, gasping, changed but alive. Unthinkable, Matthias breathed. He'd been in that first line, his body reconstructed from shared existence. I felt myself disappear, then you. Unity means we all exist or none of us do, I said, but the effort had cost me. Blood ran from my nose, tasting of copper and starlight. The Void Hunters paused, recalculating. They'd never faced a truly unified pack before. Adaptation noted. Increasing force. The second wave was worse. They came from below, above, through angles that shouldn't exist. Reality twisted. Palace walls becoming suggestions rather than facts. Pack members struggled to maintain their sense of self as existence itself became negotiable. We need to anchor, Thaddeus shouted, his primordial knowledge finally useful. The unity bond is quantum. It exists across possibilities. Use that. I understood immediately. Instead of fighting the Void Hunter's reality bending, we'd embrace it. Everyone, sync with me. We're going to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. That's insane, someone protested. That's Tuesday now, Caspian replied, grabbing my hand. Power multiplied exponentially across our curse bond turned blessing. Do it. I reached through the unity bond and shifted. Not our bodies, but our existence itself. Suddenly, every pack member existed in 43 different versions of reality, all slightly offset. The Void Hunters' attacks passed through us like we were ghosts, unable to erase what existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Clever, their leader acknowledged. But maintaining that state will exhaust you. We are patient. We are eternal. We are seriously annoying, Celine interrupted, and threw the moonstone blade directly at the leader's void face. The blade shouldn't have been able to touch something made of absence, but the starlight within it existed beyond normal physics. It struck true, and the Void Hunter screamed, a sound that shattered every window in the palace and made reality hiccup. For the first time, we saw what lay beneath a Void Hunter's absence. Raw, terrified existence, so afraid of being defined that it wrapped itself in nothing. They're not destroyers, I gasped, understanding flooding through me. They're terrified of existing. They erase things because existence itself terrifies them. Then let's give them something to really fear, Caspian said, the balance crown blazing. Unity isn't just about connection. It's about accepting existence, flaws, and all. We moved as one, the entire Unity pack flowing forward like a tsunami of acceptance. Not attacking, but embracing. Each Void Hunter we touched was forced to feel what they'd avoided for eons: connection, definition, existence. They fought back viciously. Pack members fell, their existence temporarily scattered before the unity bond pulled them back together. The young Omega who'd saved me with the prophecy took a direct hit, her form fracturing across 17 realities before I managed to weave her back together. But we were winning. Each void hunter we touched began to solidify, their absence filling with possibility. Some fled immediately, others stood frozen, experiencing existence for the first time in millennia. Then their leader did something unexpected. It laughed. Real sound, not mental projection. You beautiful, naive children. You think you're winning? We're just the scouts. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. I felt it approaching from beyond the edge of reality. Something vast. Not one entity, but a collective consciousness that made the Void Hunters look like fireflies before a forest fire. The Hollow King, Thaddeus whispered, his face going white. They woke the Hollow King. Before I could ask what that meant, it arrived. Reality didn't break. It simply gave up. Where the Hollow King manifested, existence became optional. Pack members didn't disappear. They forgot they'd ever existed in the first place. The unity bond began unraveling, not from attack, but from members simply forgetting they were connected. No, I reached out desperately, trying to hold the bonds together. But how do you maintain connection to people who don't remember existing? The little Luna thinks she can hold reality together through will alone. The Hollow King spoke with 10,000 voices. Your mother thought the same before I unmade her. You killed her? Rage flooded through me. Not Morgana. Morgana was a tool. I am the hand that wields all tools. And you, child of light and unity, are the greatest threat to the natural order in 1,000 years. Reality requires separation, division, loneliness. Your unity breaks the fundamental laws. Then maybe the laws need breaking, Caspian snarled, but even he was fading at the edges, forgetting pieces of himself. I felt everything slipping away, pack members vanishing not into death, but into never having been. The unity bond dissolving like sugar in rain. Even my own memories were becoming uncertain. Was I really Azara? Had I ever been? Then, in that moment of absolute dissolution, I heard her. My mother, not as a ghost, but as a memory encoded in my very atoms. Remember why you chose unity. Not because it's powerful, because loneliness is the only real death. The truth hit like lightning. The Hollow King fed on isolation, on the spaces between. But the unity bond wasn't just connection. It was the rejection of loneliness itself. You're not eternal, I said, certainty flooding through me. You're just the fear of being alone, given form. The Hollow King recoiled. Unthinkable. Want to bet? I asked, and did the most unexpected thing. I let go of the unity bond completely. The moment I released the unity bond, everything collapsed. Pack members gasped as individual consciousness slammed back into them. The shared strength vanished. The multiple realities we'd maintained merged painfully back into one. We stood separately, vulnerably, terrifyingly alone. The Hollow King laughed with the sound of dying stars. Foolish child. You've given me exactly what I wanted. Separated, you're nothing but prey. But I was already moving, running directly at the incomprehensible entity. Caspian screamed my name. Celine threw the moonstone blade, trying to stop me. Even the Void Hunters seemed shocked. I dove into the Hollow King's essence, that space of absolute isolation where nothing could exist, connected to anything else. The pain was beyond description. Every bond I'd ever felt, every connection I'd ever made, burned away like tissue paper in a forge. You'll dissolve, the Hollow King said, almost puzzled. No consciousness can survive complete isolation. That's what you think, I whispered, and for the first time since childhood I embraced being nobody. Not the Luna heir, not the Unity Pack's center, not even Azara Voss. Just nothing. And in that nothing, I found something unprecedented. The rejection scar on my neck, that mark of being unwanted, unworthy, disconnected, began to glow. Not with power, but with acceptance. I'd been rejected. I'd survived isolation. I'd lived as nobody for 23 years. I was the only wolf alive who could exist in the Hollow King's essence without dissolving. What are you? For the first time, fear entered its 10,000 voices. I'm what you never understood, I said, reaching deeper into its core. Loneliness isn't the opposite of unity, it's the foundation. You can't choose connection without first knowing isolation. My hands found something solid in the void, a heart made of crystallized loneliness, beautiful and terrible. The Hollow King's true form, not a destroyer, but a child who'd been alone so long it forgot any other way to exist. Through the palace windows, I heard Caspian roar. Now, while she has it distracted. The Unity Pack moved, but not to attack. They began to sing, an old Omega lullaby about finding family among strangers. Their voices rose, not demanding connection, but offering it. Stop, the Hollow King pleaded, its form beginning to crack. I don't want. I can't. You can, I said gently, holding its crystallized heart. Being alone isn't wrong, but choosing to stay alone when connection is offered? That's just fear. I did something that should have been beyond comprehension. I took the Hollow King's heart into myself, not to destroy, but to transform. The rejection scar on my neck split open, light pouring out. But this time it wasn't pure silver. It was every color that loneliness could be. The blue of sitting alone at dawn, the gold of sunset solitude, the deep purple of midnight isolation. Beautiful in its own way. The Unity Pack gasped as the light reached them, but it didn't force connection. Instead, it offered choice. Be alone when you need to, connect when you want to. Not unity through force, but unity through freedom. Even the Void Hunters began to change, their absence filling not with existence but with potential. The choice to exist or not, moment by moment. Defying all logic, Thaddeus breathed, reading from his tome with shaking hands. She's created something that shouldn't exist. Voluntary unity, connection without compulsion. The Hollow King's form was dissolving, but not dying. It was becoming something else, something I felt taking shape within my transformed scar. Not destroyed, but finally, after eons of isolation, given the choice to belong. Why? Its fading voices asked. Why save the thing that tried to unmake you? Because, I said, tears streaming down my face, my mother saved me by dying alone. The least I can do is make sure nothing else has to. The explosion of light was visible across 8 territories. When it faded, I stood in the palace hall, changed. The rejection scar had become something else, a mark that shifted between light and shadow, connection and solitude, constantly choosing moment by moment what to be. The Void Hunters had solidified into something like wolves, but not quite. Beings of living shadow who could choose their level of existence. They stood uncertain, experiencing choice for the first time. And within me, I felt it. The Hollow King's essence, not conquered but befriended. The loneliest being in existence finally had a home. The balance crown, Caspian said suddenly. Look at it. The crown had split again, but not into 2, into thousands of tiny lights, each one floating to a different pack member. As each light touched a wolf, they gasped, feeling it. The ability to lead when needed, follow when appropriate, be alone when necessary, connect when desired. You've broken the Alpha-Omega system entirely, Matthias said, wonder in his voice. We're all everything, nothing, whatever we choose to be. The voluntary unity, Selene named it, the moonstone blade in her hand transforming into pure light before reforming as whatever weapon was needed moment by moment. Not a pack structure, but a pack choice. I felt wolves across all territories responding through the transformed bond, not forced to join, but invited to choose. Some chose isolation, and that was okay. Others chose deep connection. Most chose something in between, fluid and changing. The old powers won't accept this, one of the former void hunters warned, its voice like whispered shadows. The primeval alphas, the prima luna, the things that sleep in the deep places, they'll come? Then they'll come, I said, exhaustion hitting like a tide. Caspian caught me before I fell, and I felt our curse bond blessing pulse with something that might have been love, or might have been partnership, or might have been both. But they'll find something they don't expect. What's that? He asked softly. A pack that can be anything, I said. United when we need to be, individual when we want to be, and absolutely beyond prediction. In my chest, the Hollow King's essence stirred, not as a prisoner, but as a protector. The loneliest being in existence had become the guardian of chosen solitude, ensuring no one would ever be forced to be alone or forced to connect against their will. The war wasn't over. I could feel primordial powers stirring through expanded awareness, confused and angry at the dissolution of structures they'd maintained for millennia. But for the first time in 300 years, wolves had true choice. And choice, I was learning, was the most powerful force in any reality. So, Celine asked with a wry smile, what do we call ourselves now? We're not really a pack anymore, not in the traditional sense. I looked around at the assembled wolves, former alphas, omegas, betas, void hunters, and everything in between, all choosing moment by moment what to be. We're the chosen, I said, not chosen by fate or blood or hierarchy, but choosing ourselves, each other, every single day. Thunder rumbled in the distance. I felt them rising, the primeval alphas from their 1,000-year sleep, the prima luna stirring in her moon palace, the deep things crawling toward the surface. They thought they were coming to face a Luna Queen and her unity pack. They had no idea they were about to meet something that had never existed before, wolves who'd transcended the very concept of fixed identity. The real transformation hadn't been my shift that broke the crown. It hadn't even been the unity bond. It was this. The moment we stopped being what we were told to be and started being what we chose to be. And that terrified the old powers more than any unity ever could. 6 months after the transformation, I stood where it all began. The Lunar Hall, now renamed the Chamber of Choices. The marble floor still bore the scars from that first night, when my blood had mixed with starlight. We'd voted to keep them. Some wolves touched the marks, for luck, others for remembrance, most just to feel connected to that moment when everything changed. The primeval alphas arrive within the hour, Celine reported, materializing from shadow, a trick she'd learned from our reformed void hunters. The prima luna's already here, waiting in the moon garden. Demanding we return to the old ways? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Threatening to tear reality apart if we don't. She smiled, and it held edges. The usual Tuesday, really. I felt our people preparing across the transformed bond, now called the Choice Web by our younger members, not for battle, but for something harder, demonstration. How many have stayed? Caspian asked, entering with the balance crown fractured into its 1,000 pieces, orbiting around him like a constellation of possibility. We'd learned to wear it separately and together. Sometimes neither, sometimes both. 8,342, I said, with about 2,000 choosing daily whether to connect or not. And I smiled. 17 traditional packs have sent representatives. They want to understand what we've become. What we've chosen to become, he corrected gently. The distinction mattered. In 6 months, we'd rebuilt not just pack structure, but the very concept of what it meant to be wolf. Some days, our members chose to follow traditional hierarchies, alphas leading, omegas supporting. Other days, omegas led while alphas learned to follow. Most days, the roles flowed like water, each wolf becoming what the moment needed. The Hollow King stirred in my chest, no longer an entity but a part of me, teaching me that isolation could be strength, that choosing to be alone was as powerful as choosing to connect. My rejection scar had become something beautiful, a mark that shifted between states, showing others it was okay to be everything, nothing, anything in between. "She's here," Matthias announced from the doorway. He'd chosen to be our guardian today. Tomorrow, he might choose to be a scholar, a fighter, or simply Matthias. "The Prima Luna wants to speak with the false Luna Queen." "False," I laughed, and the sound made flowers bloom in the dead of winter. "I suppose I am. I'm not a Luna Queen at all anymore. I was something without a name, without precedent. The first wolf to befriend the void, to transform rejection into choice, to offer unity without demanding it. The Prima Luna waited in the moon garden, and she was everything legends claimed. Silver-white fur that held moonlight, eyes older than recorded history, power that made reality hold its breath. She stood in the traditional dominance pose, expecting submission. I sat down instead, not in defiance but in greeting. Equal to equal, existence to existence. "You dare," she began. "I choose," I corrected. "Just as you chose to come here. Just as you're choosing right now whether to attack or listen." I showed her everything across the choice web, not forced into her mind but offered, like a gift she could refuse. The transformation, the Hollow King becoming ally instead of enemy. Void hunters choosing existence, wolves discovering they could be storm and calm, leader and follower, connected and alone. For the first time in millennia, the Prima Luna looked uncertain. "This breaks everything," she said. "This fixes everything," Selene countered, appearing with 20 others, former Omegas, former Alphas, former enemies now united by choice. The old system was breaking already. Alphas going feral without Luna Queens, Omegas dying from rejection, packs fracturing from rigid hierarchy. "We're not destroying tradition," Caspian added. "The crown pieces dancing around us all now, touching each wolf and offering temporary leadership before moving on. We're expanding it. Wolves who want traditional packs can have them. Wolves who want something new can choose that. Wolves who want to shift between both can," I finished. The word that changes everything. Can choose. Can change. Can become. The primeval alphas arrived then, 5 beings of such concentrated dominance that traditional wolves would have collapsed. But our people simply acknowledged them, some bowing from choice, others standing from preference, most doing something in between. The eldest, Fenwick the Unyielding, spoke with a voice like mountains grinding. "You've ended the natural order." "We've revealed that the natural order was always a choice," I replied. "You chose dominance. The Prima Luna chose mysticism. We choose choice itself." "And when enemies come? When the devourers wake? When the end wolf rises?" the Prima Luna demanded. "How will you fight without structure?" I smiled, remembering something the Hollow King had taught me in our merged state. "The same way water fights stone, by becoming whatever we need to be." To demonstrate, our people moved. Not commanded but choosing, they shifted into perfect battle formation, then flowing into protective circles, then scattering into individual hunters, then reuniting as an unbreakable wall. All within heartbeats, all through individual choice somehow creating collective harmony. "Beyond comprehension," Fenwick breathed. "Inevitable," I corrected. Evolution was always about adaptation. We've just learned to adapt consciously, moment by moment. The Prima Luna stared at me for a long moment. Then, shocking everyone, she laughed. Silver bells and moonlight. Do you know what you've truly done, little revolutionary? Changed everything? Saved everything. She shifted to human form, a primeval woman with stars in her hair. The end wolf comes when hierarchy becomes so rigid that evolution stops. You've made us fluid again. Unpredictable. Unable to end because we no longer have a fixed form to destroy. She bowed. The primeval alphas, after a moment of disbelief, followed. Teach us, Fenwick rumbled. Teach us to choose. And so we did. Not through force or demand, but through example. Some primeval alphas chose to learn, others chose to leave. The Prima Luna chose to stay for a moon cycle, then chose to go, then chose to return. All choosing, all flowing, all becoming. The rejection scar on my neck pulsed with warmth. No longer a mark of being unwanted, but a symbol that even rejection could become connection, that isolation could become strength, that nothing was fixed unless we chose it to be. As the sun set on this new world we'd chosen into existence, I stood with Caspian on the same battlements where we'd watched the void hunters approach. But now, instead of darkness on the horizon, there were lights. Thousands of them. Packs across the world, each choosing moment by moment what to become. Do you miss it? He asked. Having a defined role? Being simply the Luna Queen? I considered, feeling the hollow king's wisdom merge with my own thoughts. I miss the simplicity sometimes, but then I remember, we were never simple, he finished. We just pretended to be. A howl rose from the northern territories, not of challenge or submission, but of choice. Another answered from the east, then the south, then the west. Soon the whole world sang with wolves choosing to be exactly what they were in each moment. What do you choose tomorrow? Caspian asked, the eternal question of our new world. I smiled, my transformed scar shifting between all its possible states. I choose to see what tomorrow offers, then choose again. The howls continued into the night, a symphony of possibility. And somewhere in the harmony, I heard my mother's voice one last time, not mourning what was lost, but celebrating what we'd chosen to become. We were no longer the rejected and the dominant, the alphas and omegas, the rulers and the ruled. We were the chosen, every day, every moment, every breath. And that choice would echo through eternity, transforming not just our world, but the very nature of existence itself. Because the most powerful force in any universe isn't dominance or submission, hierarchy or chaos. It's the moment a conscious being says, I choose, and means it.